Welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. Our mission is to share what we have learned from our experience and the experience of others to help you make more money investing like a pro. We want to teach you how to create wealth by investing in real estate the Discount Property Investor way. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Discount Property Investor Podcast. Clint Bartlett, a good friend of mine from Omaha, Nebraska, is here today with me. And this episode is actually going to be, kind of a little different than most episodes. I was on the phone talking to Clint just the other day. Clint, have you been on the podcast, by the way? Welcome.
I've never, I don't think, but thank you.
You are new. Welcome, man.
Episode
I know. 320 something, I believe.
Oh, dang.
Got quite a few of them. But anyway, I was talking to Clint the other day. Clint and myself are very similar. He's a little bit more handsome than me, but we both buy houses and fix them up and sell them and rent them out and use the BRRRR method. And, we're constantly marketing to motivated sellers and using other people's money. And we're doing a lot of the same things. And he called me the other day and he said, dude, what's going on with the market, the economy? How's your business? And we chatted for a few minutes and I'm like, dude, this is such valuable content and information. We got to make a podcast about it. So I literally was like, Clint, I can't tell you anymore. Let's redo this on a show and give some value to the audience, right? So there's a couple things that I wanted to, kind of mention. Like we had mentioned interest rates, right? We had mentioned cash flow. We had mentioned, state of the economy and a couple other things, right? So Clint, without further ado, welcome. Maybe just give us 2 minutes about who Clint is and let's just jump in and have a conversation, on unorthodox type of episode here today, but we're going to have some fun.
David, thank you for having me on. I'm just another bro. I'm an investor just like you. I think you already gave me a great intro, very similar model to you. I'm here in Omaha, Nebraska. I've been investing for really about 5 years, seriously, after I quit my corporate job. Have a big family, blended family, 7 kids. My wife's in real estate. She's all in. We, buy and flip houses together. She's our disposition person with listing. So everything, all things real estate. But yeah, we love the BRRRR game. We do a lot of refinance, buy and hold. We're pushing about 200 doors in our portfolio. We buy anywhere from 60 to 70 houses a year and keep the best, sell the rest, same model that you're running. So if we come across a property that is a great deal for a buy and hold, we'll just refinance it, peel it off and go ahead and hold it. And that's really the main objective for the entire business. We do a ton of marketing, cold calling, texting, do a ton of internet marketing right now, which I'm a huge fan of. Anything PPC or pay per lead. So kind of paying third-party companies, buying leads off them has been kind of our mainstay for the last year and a half. But really tried it all, radio, just like you, a little bit of TV, a little bit of this, that, and the other. But the market's changing, right? We're in the first year where, at least for me in my career, it feels more like the very beginning, kind of 2014, 2015, 2016, when I was getting started, where it's more of a neutral market. There's not this crazy buying frenzy. And now we're compressed by this these interest rates, which makes it kind of challenging for investors as well.
Absolutely. So let's just jump in. So thank you for the intro. You are a rock star. I'm so happy to have you on my show. Let's circle back now to just the conversation that me and you were having the other day. So you called up and you were like, hey man, what's good? How you been? And then, what's going on with your business? And I, one of the things I said is, man, the interest rates are going up. Obviously we're recording this, mid-April here, 2023. We just did a refi last week where it was 6.5%, but we did one about 2 months ago where it was 8.5%. Holy cow. So these interest rates are squeezing us investors, right? We can't necessarily charge, a whole lot more in rent than the market rate, maybe a little, of course, if it's new and rehabbed and whatnot. But the margins are getting cut down quite a bit. What usually would cash flow 250 to 300 at a 4% interest rate. Now that we're in a 6 or 7 or even an 8% rate, may not cash flow at all, or maybe cash flow 50 or $100. Are you seeing the same thing in Omaha? I'm obviously in STL.
Exactly the same thing. And we're feeling that pain. My last refi was north of 8%. And when I really looked at the numbers, my mortgage payment alone was pretty close to what my gross rents were going to be. So, not including taxes, insurance, expenses, property management. So now I'm taking on rentals that I'm saying, okay, this is going to negative cash flow me for how much and for how long. So luckily at the refi, we're still getting a good chunk of cash back, and typically even a little bit of surplus if we're buying them right. So now I have a decision, kind of an opportunity cost decision of, okay, it's going to negative cash flow for 2 to 3 years because of interest rates and because, we're, at the very beginning starting cycle of our mortgage. But, I did just pull out an extra 20 grand
on that deal.
So yeah. So if you pull out an extra 20 grand on a house and it negative cash flows 3 to 5 grand a year for 2 or 3 years, you took your money now and you're going to lose it.
You're
going to
just pay it back over those years, but hopefully you're going to have appreciation on that property.
You'll have appreciation.
Pay it down.
You'll hopefully refinance, right? We'll get into a better interest rate market at some point, but we can't bank on that. You don't want to bank on, it'll be better a year and a half from now. It's like, it may not be.
It may not be. That's right. That's exactly right. But with hyperinflation that we're facing, maybe not hyper, but inflation that's, in our lifetime, probably not been, maybe in our lifetime, when we were little kids, right? But as adults, we've never seen inflation over 3%. And we're at like 7, 8, 9% inflation. So, one of the things though that it sucks with the interest rates going up because the cash flow is getting scrunched or, getting minimized. But the value of all these assets we're holding is rapidly appreciating. So even a short-term negative cash flow isn't a big deal, especially yours isn't negative until you've spent the 20. You get the 20 now, and let's say you lose 3 grand a year. I mean, you're not losing money on that deal until you've spent the 20 over the next 5 6 years, whatever it may be.
And I'm not going to say that 20 gets put into some sort of reserve account. It still gets spent, but it's getting spent on more real estate to do the exact same thing.
Absolutely. That's how mine is too.
So
it's always just coming in. It's a big pool of water.
But that
is
some
more water and you ain't getting that water back.
Exactly. You talked about inflation. It's how you beat inflation. That is how you beat it is you outpace it by buying more property. Yeah. And you take it on with appreciation, debt pay down, and all the advantages of holding real estate. So
prior to COVID, or prior to really more so like the last 12 months where rates started kind of rising through the roof and whatnot, what was your average cash flow on a property? Just get from the hip.
Honestly, with the refi, we were refining out at 85% loan to value before they started to take us down. So it still wasn't much. Couple $100.
A couple hundred.
Yeah. 150 to a couple hundred. I mean, because like I said, we're fully levered on these deals. We pull all of our cash out. So we're leveraging as much as we can, which kind of decreases your cash flow. But again, you're
walking with money sometimes. I mean, you have to be, right? There's no way you're all into these deals at 85% with purchase, rehab, hard money costs, right? You're probably into these sometimes for 70%.
Well, yeah, we're walking away with more money than what in terms of actually net gain, we're walking away with more money than what we would make when we flip, because we're not paying taxes on that
the beginning.
Money.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. Man, so we're walking away with more cash. So a lot of them, it's like, I run the side-by-side analysis between flipping it and holding it. It's like, well, I'll walk away with the same amount of money, if not more, at the refinance, and I won't pay taxes on that money, and I'll still own the property a year or 2 or 10 or 20 from now. So it's been a no-brainer. Now it does change things now with the interest rates, because that negative cash flow starts to impact your portfolio. Banks still want to see the debt coverage ratio, the DCSR. They need to see better cash flow. So at some point, the banks are going to crimp down if you're trying to refi and pull a bunch of cash out, and you're going to negative cash flow $500 a month per property. Or that's not going to fly for them.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to do too many of those unless you have a bunch of other assets already that are positively cash flowing, or you have cash reserves. Yeah, obviously you have 200 doors. You've been in the business for 8 to 10 years. You know what you're doing. But definitely things to keep in mind for the listeners here. Like it may not be a great time to go do negative cash flows if you can't cover it. Yeah. Right. So just things to keep in mind.
Yeah. And the interest rates affect me on all ends. It's not just, on the refinance part. So I'm fortunate enough to work with a couple of local banks that have been very aggressive in working with me and helping me acquire properties. So whereas most people work with private or hard money on the acquisition side, I'm able to use a bank line of credit, but it's the prime +1. So whereas
prime 7.5 right now.
Yeah. So I'm at almost 9% interest on my interest only holding costs. And we have, at any given time, we typically have anywhere from $1.5 to $2.5 million of real estate that's sitting in our pool of either about to be sold or being rehabbed or being
Yet to
refinanced
refi.
out.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if you that's an extra 10 grand a month that I pay to hold that real estate. So it's got my wheels. I react a little bit differently now than what I could back then, because now I'm paying 9% versus paying 4.5%.
Yeah, 4.5. Right.
It hurts a lot more to hold on to a property and not disposition it quicker. So we're wholesaling a lot more.
So what has this done though? I mean, it seems to me like it's allowed us to not necessarily pivot, but optimize, or what's the word I'm looking for here? You know, like,
well, no, it's definitely an optimization time. So this has forced us to look at a lot of our bottom line costs, because you and I were talking about this on the phone. Is like, well, where have I allowed my company to get a little inflated over the last couple of years because we're in a heyday market? You know, everything's been so great and everything's selling for 20K over list and we're making all this extra money. So I was canceling subscriptions that like we just weren't using. You know, like launch control went from like used to be $100 a month to like $750 or something like that. Like there's some stuff that we just weren't leveraging to really justify. The biggest move that we made was we weren't getting the highest ROI on 2 virtual assistants that we've had with us for 5+ years. So we had to make a tough call to, and you know, these people are like family to us too. So it's kind of devastating to make the call, but just protecting our bottom line. And again, you have to
innovate. That's the word I was looking for. We have to kind of innovate a little bit, because optimize, innovate, similar, right? But you know, as our margins start getting shrunken down and deals are a little bit more hard to come by, you know, there's still plenty of deals out there, folks. Don't get me wrong, right? But you know, pre-COVID, I could fall into a deal. During COVID, it slowed down a ton because nobody wanted to see or touch or talk to anybody. Everybody's in a panic. You know, post-COVID, we had this crazy run-up of real estate values, and then we had a little bit of a drop, and it's leveled off since then, in my opinion, right? Same with the interest rates. They went way up. They've actually come down a little bit over the last, 6 or 8 weeks, which is great. I mean, we did one about 7-8 weeks ago. It was 8.5% on a refi. We did one last week, not even a week ago. It was like 4 or 5 days ago, and it was 6.5%, 2 full percentage points less. Now, different banks, different lenders, different products. Altogether, different products altogether.
Yeah.
But still, that's a big difference between 8.5 and 6.5, right? Like, wow,
huge. You dropped 25%. Yeah, that's a huge reduction.
Clint,
so
on your topic, I always get, sometimes I get sidetracked. I apologize. On your topic,
let's go where you go.
We got to innovate, and we got to understand where we're making our money and where we are spending our money. And I did the exact same thing. I looked at the expenses, because the income, I mean, we're all working on that all day, every day. How do we buy some more properties to wholesale, fix and flip, or add to the rental property with the BRRRR method? Me and you do the exact same thing, right? And, more marketing obviously is going to give you more opportunity, but certain times, in certain economies and certain times, you might have more leads per deal or more appointments you have to run per deal. So what we also did simultaneously, and it sounds like you did the same, is look at the expenses. And we're like, hey, we got 6 softwares to do certain things. We're only using 3 or 4 of them. Is it really mandatory? Is it necessary? Absolutely necessary to keep these things. And we cut a couple things. Same with people. We coming out of COVID, I think I had 5 or 6 VAs, and I'm down to 3 at this point. So we got rid of 2 or 3 of them. Just because, and again, it sucks, having to get rid of people and let people go. It wasn't personal, it's business. It's just like, hey, we're not seeing the positive return on investment out of these efforts. So it's not personal, not, coming at you and saying you're bad at your work. It's just this particular thing that we were doing isn't working right now. We're gonna have to circle back at a later time. So maybe we could find something else for you to do. Otherwise, we're gonna have to let you go. And that's just part of the game. It's part of being an entrepreneur. It's part of being a business owner. So what else are you seeing, Clint? Again, this is just me and you chatting here. What else are you seeing, man?
I just want to add to the point. I mean, there are so many ways you can go cut costs in your business, and people, we love to focus on top line growth. That is the big sexy number, sales, look at all this revenue. But like, honestly, if your bottom line, if money is flying out the window because you're just inefficient, it doesn't make any difference.
Making $1 million a month is cool until you spend 1.1 a month.
Yeah,
right. Like,
exactly.
What's the point?
So one area that I think is pretty interesting, if you're a rehabber, we sat with Sherwin-Williams with our rep, our paint, because we buy a lot of paint, we buy 60 grand a year in paint. And we just like, we had PPG, another paint company, approach us a couple weeks ago. So we just kind of threw it out there to Sherwin-Williams, like, hey, PPG is knocking on our door. What can you do? Our flips are costing too much. Interest rates are higher. So on our main paint that we buy, I think they went from like $37 a gallon to 21.
That's huge.
And
That's
I sat with I
$20,000
sat
a
in the
year in
meeting.
savings.
I was with my project manager and I was like, I go, why are we doing this now? Like I was almost mad.
Yep.
I was grateful, but
But
like,
you don't know till you know.
really, like you had that on the table. So, and now we're looking at every SKU that we buy, the stupid stuff that we buy. You know, you go on Lowe's, you can buy a black composite sink, single bowl sink they're like $350 now, or they used to be $250 a year and a half ago. You know, all the crazy inflation.
$199 even. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm like, is there a better way? Amazon, about the same sink, you can buy it for $250. So it's like, okay.
Have you tried to buy blinds lately? Blinds used to be $4. They're $25 now.
Yeah. So we're being very selective about
ceiling fans used to be $50. They're 90.
Yeah. Everything. I mean,
everything
it's all doubled.
Has gone up.
But if you can still offset some of the inflation by buying it in the right place. So like now we go to Amazon, like you buy hardware from Lowe's, for example, you spend $5 for a knob, $4 to $6 for a knob that goes on a cabinet. Or you can go on Amazon and get a nicer product, if not, you know, a little more stylish for $2 a knob. So like we're just figuring out places where, you know, if we plan better on our projects on the rehab, where we can go shave off 15 to 25%. So that's what I put in my project manager who runs all of our flips and rental rehabs of like, hey, it's there if we go get it. We just have to be very intentional. It's not just show up at Lowe's and buy a bunch of crap off the shelf and that's what we bring. No, we're not going to.
Yeah, you got to prepare a little bit more. And so that's a good thing though, because that we're talking about this, because it used to be that way where it's just like, here's a credit card, maybe, you know, you go, your project manager goes, maybe even your trusted GC goes and they just do it. Right now it's like, hey guys, let's shop around. Let's negotiate with the suppliers. Like you just did with Sherman Williams. We did the same thing. I need to get them down to $20 a gallon too, man. I think I'm probably closer to 30. So definitely something I'm learning here, you know, but yeah, just being more efficient and shopping around. I love Menards because of the 11% rebate. I don't know if this works or not, but I had a friend tell me this the other day and he may have been blowing smoke, but he said that he'll go into Menards and buy like $5,000 worth of gift cards and then get 11% rebate on the gift card purchase. And then he'll then use the gift cards to buy materials and then get 11% rebate on the materials. And I'm like, holy cow,
that's gaming the system.
I guess so. I don't know if it works or not. And he could have been blowing smoke, but I'm just thinking, holy cow,
have to test that.
That might be something I'm interested in doing. Like, holy cow, like that's huge, you know? Like,
that's a big discount. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I don't know. Don't quote me on there. Hopefully I don't get a letter in the mail from Menards corporate suing me for disclosing that here on the podcast. I've never done that, but yeah, I'm gonna give it a try.
If they allow it, that's on them. If they
I'm not trying to break any rules, but if they'll let you do it, why not? You know? So, but interesting.
Another pivot as we talk about looking at the current market. You know, we've converted a few single family homes that were just traditional rentals in very suburbia Omaha, not close to cool parts of town. We've converted them into short-term, into Airbnbs, and we've seen higher cash flows from them. So yeah, it takes a little bit more upfront to furnish a home.
Let's talk about these for a second.
Furnish a house for about an extra 12 grand. So
yeah, 10, 12, 15,000 to furnish them, right? Yep. Are you managing these in-house? Do you have somebody or is there a third party? Because that's the biggest expense with these.
It is. It's kind of a hybrid. So my sister-in-law manages a couple of them locally here in town that we have. Cool. And then we do have one in Scottsdale, Arizona that my wife and I actually manage, and we charge our company that owns it 15% for the management.
So you're the manager.
So yeah, we kind of pay ourselves in a roundabout way because it's a hassle, like managing.
How many do you have? How many short-term details?
That's a tough number. 5-ish.
Yeah, 5-ish. Cool. And
with one in the works right now in another suburbia part of town, because I figured out that I could go from about 1,800 to a net of 3,000 a month on the same house. While
so the break even's a little bit longer because you have to offset the 12 grand roughly.
The cost of the furniture,
and the couches and the beds and the TVs and the forks and the knives and the spatulas and all that stuff you have to buy. But if you're not in this game for a month or two and you're here for the long haul, like I can confidently say Clint's going to be doing this in 10 years. I'd hope. Yeah. I know I will be. So it's like, hey, we're okay, breaking even for a year because year 2 and 3 and 4 is triple the cash flow. So I just sold, I'd say just about a year ago, I sold the only Airbnb that I had that was short-term, but I have 2 midterm rentals right now.
Okay. And
I'm looking to buy more of them. And the reason we pivoted to midterms, Clint, is because St. Louis City sucks. And they're not Airbnb friendly. And if you have an Airbnb in St. Louis City that you market, here's the way that they do it. If you market it for less than 30-day rental terms, they change your property tax billing from residential property to commercial. So essentially, we had a property that the taxes were $2,300 annually. They went to $9,000.
Oh, mercy.
Yeah. So we're like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. So we we sold that one. We started kind of looking at the market. Right now we got 2 midterm rentals. So they're still posted on Airbnb. And we also use Furnish Finder.
Furnish Finder. Yeah.
Great site to find traveling nurses and corporate folks. And we just don't market them less than 30 days. And we're typically getting 2 and 3 month leases, where these properties made typically lease for their small 2-bed, 1 bath, 2 bed, 2 baths. And they're in normal parts of town, like you mentioned. They're not near the Arch here or the zoo or, you know, a big attraction like a stadium. Like they're just out in the middle of a random neighborhood. But instead of getting $1,200 to $1,500 a month in rent, we're getting $2,500 or $3,000, like you said. Now we have that $12,000 upfront cost to furnish these things. But since we only have 2, we're self-managing those right now. At some point, we're going to need to, you know, scale that up and change it. But I like the midterms. I really do.
Well, and that's how you beat the interest rates. And that's the pivot that I think, you know, you can die if you want to be the dinosaur and say, no, this is how I do my business. Then you will be squashed by interest rates and the market will crush you. But that is the pivot.
Innovate.
Those are the types of, and that's not the only option, right? I mean, maybe it's a season like I've even the last like 2 months, we've just been wholesaling a lot because like I said, though, my holding costs are that much higher. So it's like, I try to buy it, I clean it out the next day, we get pictures and we're listed within 48 hours of buying the house. And we're putting the house out there at a discount, but still trying to make our nugget. And, you know, so I only hold it for 45 days, hopefully. It's kind of like my ideal, you know, or sooner if I get a cash buyer. But we're doing that a lot right now because I'm going to get eaten alive if I don't change. You know, I can't just sit on 6 or 8 flips at a time for anywhere from 8 weeks to, you know, 4 months or whatever it is.
Yeah, the holding costs are
depending
double.
on intensity.
I mean, 4.5 to 9 is double. So they're double the price. And, you know, that's
exactly.
We just finished a burr up, just the one that we just refinanced at 6.5, like 4 days ago that I was talking about earlier. We owned it for 11 months. And it was just one of these projects where it was kind of far away and our contractors weren't happy about it. We ended up paying $17,000 in hard money interest on this house. We got it done and we actually got money back at closing because we bought it such a good deal, such a discount. But I was just talking to my partner. I'm like, man, next time we cannot go beyond
that's 17 grand that, you know,
that we could have had to just go do and take a vacation or put into the next project or do whatever. And again, neither one of us were really mad or upset. We had other things going on. We're busy, but it's just like, man, we got to start doing, you know, one of the things we've done to innovate and pivot is we're still trying to buy a ton of deals, like you said, but you know, it's like, you know what, I'd rather have 3 or 4 going that I can do in 3 or 4 months time than 10 that take me 6 or 8 months because of these holding costs. So I guess you could say in theory, we slowed down, but we could also say in theory that we've sped up. We're doing the same thing. We're slowing down on trying to buy so many, but we're trying to speed up on getting them online, ready for sale, ready for rent, ready for the appraiser from the bank refi to come take a look. Because the interest rates are just kind of going bonkers. What are you seeing with values, Clint, in your neighborhoods?
Well, you know, we're still holding pretty strong. You know, I don't think we're still, most of the stuff that I'm wholesaling, you know, very average condition homes, some in subpar, but I'm still listing them at a price that's still kind of median or sub median of the neighborhood. We're still getting multiple offers. We're still typically selling in the first weekend of it being on the market. So call it, you know, 2 to 4 days being on the market, we're getting something under contract. So
that's amazing.
I think that's good. Inspections are coming back. You know, for the last couple of years, I feel like everybody was waiving inspections. So now even on the wholesales, we're still coming back and doing some inspection repairs. But the point that I want to make, because we were just on this topic, one thing that another pivot mitigation tactic for interest rates, because our holding costs are higher, whether it be hard money or bank money, they're all higher, is stay at that low price point. I mean, if you're flipping a $300,000 cost or $300,000 house purchase price versus a $100,000 house, your 3x on that interest cost is substantial, thousands of dollars a month. So you talked about 17.5 of holding costs in that property. What was the purchase price in that property for you?
That one, let's call it 100, and then there was about a 60K rehab, but it appraised for 250, so it was like not a problem. But
the
yeah, I mean,
problem was there's just a
we
long
borrowed the
time.
money for the purchase and the rehab, so we borrowed 100 plus the
Yeah.
60, but we had to pay back 176.
Yeah.
But we still walked with money because we bought it
Yeah.
so low. We probably could have paid 150 for that deal and made money on it, but we got it 100. So again, it was one of those where we kept kind of kicking that can down the road because we're like, we got such a good deal. Like, let's allocate our resources to this project or our money to this one and this one. But that was the longest burr I think we've done outside of an apartment building with multiple units being rehabbed.
Yeah.
You know, that was the longest. It was 11-month burr project. Usually we can do them, 4 to 6 months. What's your average burr? Since we're on the topic. In terms of time frame.
We don't do heavy burrs. So carpet, paint, lights, some fixtures, typically 4 to 5 weeks.
So you're quick.
Back.
How quick?
Yeah,
do you have
back.
seasoning with your bankers?
Nope, no seasoning, and the repairs don't have to be done. So in some cases, as long as I'm not flailing on what I want to actually, how I want to disposition the property, I can buy the house, that day, and I just send it to my other bank that I want to refi with and say, hey, we're ready to roll. And
now, do you think that you could take that to any bank and do that, or is that because you have an established relationship?
It's very relationship based.
Yeah, agreed. And that's why I asked, because we
supply them. We supply them a scope of work, and in the beginning, they would actually come back to the property to make sure we did the work that we said we were going to do, because they were refinancing us before the work was even done.
Yep.
Just anticipating. So, after walking through a couple dozen houses, they know that we're not trying to pull anything over them. We're going to do the work. We're going to do the refi. But my whole point about buying at that lower price point is that, your heavier interest costs, first of all, that's where the buyer pool is. The buyer pool is always going to be at the sub median price point. So for us, we're 275 to 300,000 is our median retail price right now. I'm buying stuff at 100 to 150 and dispositioning between 200 and 250. So like we're still staying well below that median price point, but our carrying costs are just so, even with higher interest rates, 100 grand it's not that painful, right? Because you're, at 9%, you're still paying sub $1,000 a month. But if you try to flip these houses that are higher price point luxury and you're paying the hard money on, $350,000 plus house, now you're paying several grand a month for that one house. You got a lot of risk in that one deal.
That's the word I was looking for. Risk.
Yeah. And typically you have, like, I don't know for you, but just because I buy a $500,000 house doesn't still mean I'm going to make my 20% profit on that purchase price. So a lot of times I make 20 grand on a 500,000. I make 20 grand on 100,000
or more. Even
like,
wow.
So I just really focus on that. And I'm not talking about houses that are like burned down or condemned. They're still good livable properties. It's just like focus on that price point that is sub median, because you're gonna, whether you're hard money, bank money, however you're financing that thing, the ease of that will be a lot less painful, and dispositioning is always easier. You and I both know dispositioning those properties at that sub median price point is just quicker.
It's easier. Just easier. You have more buyers. I mean, just think about it.
Yeah. Yep.
If you have a bunch of people that, are looking for a starter home in the 250, or lower range, you're going to have a huge pool of buyers for that. Whereas if you got a 500,000 or 700,000 or even $1 million property, like the amount of buyers, A, they're going to be a lot less of them. The pool's smaller, but B, they're going to be more picky because they're spending more money.
The pickiness,
these higher end homes is, I mean, it's like, I don't even really want to mess with them unless I'm building them from the ground up.
Dude, all they do is walk those flips on the nicer, higher price point. They just walk through and look for the stuff you didn't do. That's all. That's those buyers are like, well, we know you updated all this other stuff, but the driveway has cracks in it. And then it's just
they're getting nitpicky, man.
So don't do them. I never recommend that, especially new investors. Stay away from these, hit your singles, be happy with your little wins on those properties. That is best way to mitigate risk, is buy properties that are very highly, easily dispositionable, whether it be a rental or a cash buyer or first time home buyer, whatever it is. Like, go where the buyer pool is, and those are the houses you should be buying.
100%. Cool. All right, let's talk about a couple other things here before we wrap up here. So novations, do you do any of these yet? Are you a fan? Are you not a fan?
I don't. I mean, I'm a fan of anything creative right now. I think, like you said, in the pivot process, we just did a subject to deal. We haven't done much creative finance because we've always been the cash hammer people, we pay cash,
Same.
cash, cash,
Same.
cash, cash. And that's a lazy approach. So I think it's a great time to get into creative finance, but no, I've not done any novation stuff.
Yeah, I've done a couple, just a few, but I don't do much virtual. So for me, it's just like, I'd rather just
Yeah.
list it or buy it. And I'm an agent now, and I have a team, and we have a brokerage,
Yeah.
we have a team of agents. So I'm really just more pushing towards like, hey, let's list it. Let's buy it. We've done a few novations where the people didn't want to list it, but they knew that was the only way. And it was like in our own markets. We're like, all right, we're going to list it for you. We'll handle everything. But like, I know a lot of these nationwide guys right now are doing a lot of these, and it can be very lucrative.
Yeah.
It's just a harder approach. So what are you
Yeah.
focusing on most? Obviously adding rentals to the portfolio, using the BRRRR method. You had mentioned wholesaling. I'm sure you guys do some
Yep.
wholesaling too. What's
Yep.
the wholesale typically look like? What's your typical wholesale?
Typical wholesale, we're working on one today that we just paid. We're cleaning it out today, and pictures tonight, listing tomorrow. Bought it for 164 and listing it at 200.
No work other than clean out. So you
No
probably
work,
have
yeah.
$2,000 in clean out.
$400. No, $400. I
$400.
Venmoed
Nice.
my junk guy yesterday.
Nice.
$400 for the clean out.
No dumpster, just hauling trailers out of there.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, but not a huge dumpster guy. They get you in some trouble.
Yeah.
But it will hope to sell it around 200. But those, some of these wholesales that we list at 200, it's like, oh, we got an offer at 220.
Yep.
So it's like, or we didn't, it kind of fell a little flat and we sold it at 190. So there's still a good spread there, making anywhere from 23, 24 grand to 35.
Are you guys doing more
wholesale.
wholesales than wholesales?
I don't do any wholesales. I buy from wholesalers, but I
the
don't
funny thing
disposition anything.
Is that we were doing less and less wholesales because there's more profit in closing on the deal, cleaning it out. Now you obviously add a layer of risk, and if you're new, you have to line up financing, and that's going to require you to have some experience in some cases, not necessarily, but some, as well as a relationship with the lender, right?
Yep.
But that's funny that I ask that and bring that up, because we're not really doing, we do 1 or 2 wholesales a month still, by all means.
Yeah.
But the wholesale is such a better approach because you have more control, and you can get a better price typically when you're actually buying it and closing on it.
Yep.
And then taking it to the retail market where the retail buyers are at is going to typically get you a higher, it might not be quicker, but it's going to be a higher number, which is going to offset the time anyway. So man, I'm loving it. All right, let's switch gears just for a second. I got a couple more minutes here, just about 2 more minutes. Right. What's up with the BRRRR? My typical BRRRR, it seems like we're doing obviously very similar, but also a little different, right? So you got lenders that are lending 85. I've never had a loan that high.
Not anymore. That they bumped me down to 80.
You're at 80. Okay, I'm usually 75 to 80. So we're similar on that.
A lot of people at 80 are now at 75.
And now it's 75. Yep. Okay.
Everybody's
so
you're
down. Sometimes getting them to lend prior to rehab. I'll get occasionally, but usually they want to see it done, right? Some of the banks require 4 to 6 months seasoning. Most of mine at this point, because again, relationship and experience, they'll waive the seasoning, right? But again, it can vary. My average BRRRR is 25 grand in rehab. What's yours?
On the rehab side, probably closer to 15, just because we're selective about what work we want to do. And part of that's just because of lack of faith in tenants to keep care of properties. So it's like, I don't know, almost seems like a slap in the face when you make a house really nice. You spend all this labor of love to get it nice, and then a tenant comes in, and 12 months later, you're back in rehabbing the house again because you have a crappy tenant. So we try to keep the rehabs to a minimal on the BRRRRs.
So you're less on that. That's interesting. I need to start doing some more stuff like that. So you're about 15. I'm about 25. Do you sell anything turnkey after a year or two, or you just hold?
We've only sold, like, out of all the rentals that we've acquired, I think we've sold 2 over the years. And a lot of it was just because, like, this one wasn't that great, and the tenant moved out. It's still in pretty good shape, and it was the last 2 years. So it was like, the market's great. So we still made money, but there's a lot of incentive not to sell when you refinance at 85% loan to value. There's not much equity there anyway. So it's kind of like burning the ships when you refinance, because it's like, well, I just had my profit event with this, when you pulled money back out at the refi, that was my profit event. So so now it's figured out. So one thing I have done this year is I'm really focusing on property management. I've realized, we talk about bottom line. I've just realized how much crap is slipping through the cracks. We have had a third-party property manager for most of the properties, and nobody cares about your properties like you do. So that's another area where it's like,
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's something we talked about on our call the other day.
I'm up in their business. I'm in weekly meetings. I want to know where my vacancy is at. I want to know how much delinquency
Why has it been vacant for 2 weeks, guys? What is going on? Why is this property still on the list?
That's the least of my
Are
problems,
you showing it? Do I need to go show it? Like, Clint, I am 100% in agreement on that. You know, just like we were talking about, innovate, pivot, business. You know, look at the expenses. And oftentimes it's not necessarily, at least in my business, it's not necessarily what we're spending, it's what we're not collecting.
Yes.
And that is an expense in a way, right? It's your vacancy expense, right? That you factor into your equation. But yeah, we've been really, so a couple things that we've done recently, Clint. Number one, we have been really writing the property managers, like, why is this still vacant? Do you need help? What can we do? And it just kind of lights a fire and it helps. Additionally, we are charging 1.5 to 2 times the rent as the deposit, because as you know, this is one of the things we just talked about with inflation. Ceiling fans are no longer $45. They're $100. Blinds are $25. So I don't know about you, but I can't turn a property anymore. Like, let's say it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot house or 1,500 square foot house, whatever. Normal little 3-bed, 2-bath cookie cutter home. I used to be able to go turn one of those for $1,500. So the deposit would cover most of it. Now it's $2,500 to turn that house.
Oh, best.
So we've increased the deposit. Now, do we always get them to pay double? No. Can we get them to pay 1.5? Yeah, typically.
Maybe.
If not, we'll just get what we can get. But we are definitely, kind of going in and setting the precedent with these individuals, saying, hey, we're happy to be the lease with you. It's $1,500 a month, but we need a $3,000 deposit. And it kind of weeds people out as well.
Yeah.
And gets rid of some of the people that probably can't afford the $1,500 a month. So, pros and cons, but no, I'm with you there.
Yeah, it is great. I mean, dive in their business and, start tracking, like, they send statements every month, and I don't know about you. It's like, I've never spent a lot of time diving the statements, but now we have weekly meetings and a monthly cadence where it's like, we're going to track each month. And like, I don't even know I have no measure of what good is. So like,
because you haven't been looking, but you're starting to
total gross rents. I think for this one particular property manager is about 110 grand a month. And they have months where they'll deposit anywhere from 60 to 90. And I'm like, okay, it's like 90 feels a lot better than 60.
90 feels so much better than 60. Like,
but
what is happening here?
Is 90 still good? Should I be getting 100? Right. Like, I don't even know. So you have to start to measure, like, it has to be some sort of baseline of like, okay, we don't even know if this is good, but we're at least going to start tracking it. So that I've taken my eye off that ball for the last 4 years. I don't want to, property management, I hate it. But now it's like, I have to be involved. I need to be. So
yeah, man, I'm with you 100%. Dude, Clint, thank you for coming on here and doing this episode. It's just fun to get together, especially with people that I love to talk to and communicate and network with. We're in the same field. You guys, you passed me up, man. You might have been ahead of me already, but Mike and I, my partner, we got 130 units. You guys are at 200. You guys are crushing it. Real quick, before we wrap up, tell me about this motel. I'm so curious.
It's, we bought it's a 20 units motel that we've already started. We've done most of the demo, so we're ready for build back now.
20 units?
And actually it's going to end up at about 15 units because of some of the rooms were just tiny rooms. It was an old building, but it's just north of Memorial Stadium, really close to UNL campus. So real, like, kind of it's in a dingy area, but we paid $480 for it. So about, what is that? It's a pretty cheap purchase price for a motel on a pretty big lot. It's actually 3 separate buildings. And I think I can be all in for about 500 grand in renovation. So all in for $1 million. I have no idea what the value is going to be, but what I really love is the performa that I built out from an Airbnb, Booking.com, VRBO. I think low and conservative estimate, it will net 80 grand a year.
So you're not doing long-term here. You're going to do mid and short terms.
Yeah, it'll be Airbnb.
Oh, I love it. And I got some friends here in St. Louis that are doing
boutique motel. Yeah, boutique motel / Airbnb. But dude, it's risky because maybe it won't meet my performa. But even I think my break even is like at around 30 or 40% occupancy.
You should
So I'm
consider
like, I
solar.
was like, if I can keep it 30 or 40.
You should consider
for
solar.
utilities.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
no,
you're
you see,
paying
yeah.
all the utilities, like even on ours. So we have a 67 unit motel and we're taking it down to 40 because we're making most of them, two, not
Yeah.
all, some studios, some 1-1s, some 2-1s, some 2-2s
Okay.
even. We have a big mix on ours, but we're paying all of the electric because it's all it's single metered. It's not individually. So one
Yeah.
water bill, one electric bill. There's no gas there. There is propane for the boilers, but not for the tenants per se in each unit.
Mhm.
And solar was a huge expense, 236 grand. But it's going to take the electric bill from 6,000 or 7,000 a month down to like 1,500.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's payback, right? I mean, how long does it take to pay yourself back? And is it a good investment? And do you have a financing? Can you finance that? Obviously, you probably didn't put all cash down on solar.
We did.
Yeah.
We financed it with a bank loan from the rehab funds.
Okay.
But then we're going to refinance it. So we didn't lease the panels. We own them. We'll own them. They're actually not up yet. They should be delivered this week or next.
Oh, nice.
The whole process takes a long time, but anytime you're doing, or I'm doing multi, I should say, where I don't have individually, I have a 24 unit with individual meters. I wouldn't even think to do that there. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Tenants are paying the bills anyway, but if I'm
Yeah.
paying all the bills, man, how do I offset that? Obviously raise the rents to cover it, but you can even take another step. We're going to do that too, right? Because it's all inclusive. Like you get,
Mhm.
electric and water and internet and cable included in these particular units. But I want to offset that bill too. So just something to
Yeah.
consider. But
I like that. That's cool.
how'd you find that motel? I found mine from a property manager.
Oh, a wholesaler posted it on the Lincoln, Nebraska, their RIA page.
Mhm.
And there was only 2 of us that came out to the showing, the open house. And
Roaches,
oh dude, it's a
bed bugs,
meth.
roaches, all of it, meth.
Yeah, horrible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same.
I
That's
mean,
how ours was too.
if you look at the reviews, it's actually pretty funny reading when you
Were
look at
people living in that thing long term when you bought it?
They had a couple of long-termers, but luckily they kicked everybody out at the end of December. So we started.
You guys
with it
bought
empty.
it vacant then?
We bought it vacant. We just started ripping out the beds and all the nasty stuff. And so we're kind of through that demo phase. And where the scary part right now is we're working on financing, getting some more permanent financing in place for the renovation, and for, over the next 6 to 8 months. And, we're running into some roadblocks, but just trying to stay hyper focused because property sitting that's painful when you got property just sitting with no progress. Not
Ours
good.
was a little unique, man. We had 12 people living in it when we bought it. 67 units, so it's a little bit more, a little bit larger. But we had 12 people living in it. One guy had been there 7 years. Another guy had been there for 5 years. 2 or 3 people had been there for 2 or 3 years.
Crazy.
And the motel was like they did daily, they did weekly, and they did monthly, just month to month type leases. At one point in time, like years and years ago, they rented the freaking place hourly. I mean, it was bad. Roaches, bed bugs, you name it, disgusting. Everything had to come out. But I'll tell you though, I'm really enjoying the motel project because it's like essentially doing 40 single family homes under one roof, or 3 roofs in our case.
Yeah. So what was your purchase price on 67?
We bought ours for $980,000. $1 million budget for rehab, but 230 grand was panels, so about 750 in rehab. So it's double the unit count as yours. It's 40 versus 20. It's huge. It's 22,000 square feet. So it's a big place. But we're anticipating bringing in about 31 to 32,000 a month gross income. And with mortgage and utilities, we're going to probably be somewhere around 23, 24. So, we should be 6,000 to 8,000 in cash flow, give or take, and that includes the panels.
That's net.
That's net. That's it. That's all. So we'll own them. They'll be refinanced in. Everything is new, and then the ARV appraisal, again, we'll be all in for about, call it 2.1 with interest. And the appraisal that we got with the ARV appraisal, which we'll have to redo, was 3.1. So we'll have $1 million in equity. And I'm thinking
that'll be a good bird day.
I'm thinking by the time we get there, it's going to be 3.5. We might even be able to bump those rents up to like 33 to 35K annual, or I'm sorry, monthly gross.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do? Do we take $1 million and run, or do we take 200,000 tax free and have 600-700 grand in equity that cash flows 6,000 to 7,000 a month or more? It's like either way, it's a win.
I'm always going to say take something out. I mean, if you got that sort of equity in there, take a little bit,
100 or 2 at refi. Yeah. So, well, Clint, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you so much for coming on. You are the man. You guys are crushing it. Tons of awesome information today about just us chatting about the interest rates and the state of the economy and the state of the market and cash flow and what we're doing with our deals, landlording with the property managers and short-term and midterm rentals. We covered tons of stuff, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
If anybody that's listening to this and they want to connect with you, maybe they have a house they want to sell you. Maybe they want to hire you to coach them. Clint, where do they go? What's the CTA on the episode?
I don't know. I can give you my cell phone number. I don't know if that's weird.
How about we do an email or a website? Let's do that. I don't want people blowing
Instagram.
You up either.
Yeah. How about Instagram
or Insta? There you go.
The Clint Bartlett is my handle.
So CLINT and then Bartlett is BARTLETT.
Yeah.
So the Clint Bartlett, and Bartlett's BARTLETT. Awesome. Clint,
yes, sir.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate you. Let's do this again soon. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you in any way now or anytime in the future. I'm here to help. I appreciate you. And guys, thanks for listening. Signing off.
Thanks for listening to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, please visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. We would also appreciate it if you left us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Thank you in advance for your support, and remember, you make your money when you buy, and you get paid when you sell. Now let's go build some wealth.